Everyone associated with a view from the terrace is a loser. The very best we will amount to is sitting in these chairs and pulling each other's plonkers. But just from time to time, we get to rub shoulders with people who have made a huge impression in Scottish football. And today we are joined by a man who has done everything. He has won 4 league titles, 33 caps for Scotland, numerous cups. He has been a manager, a CEO, an agent, a bar owner, a screenwriter. Is there anything else I've missed?
I think that's about it.
Excellent. We are joined by Jackie McNamara. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us.
For having me on.
It's great to see you. You've done pretty much every job there is to have in football, Jackie. Out of the lot of them, be it player, manager, agent, CEO, what's been your favourite?
Oh, without a doubt, playing. You know, you stay in football, which I have, and failed at every other bit of it. As a player, you always felt that you could influence the game or do something in the game. As a manager, you're hoping everybody did their jobs and what you've trained for and what you're prepared for.
As a player, you were part of the last Scotland squad to qualify for a major tournament in the 1998 World Cup. Tell us a wee bit about it.
The first game, the Brazil, I think I was desperate to start in that or be involved in that one. It's just I was player of the year that year. And
like how you slipped that one.
Yeah, stick it in there.
How did Craig Brown break the news to you that you won the start?
Yeah, I found out the night before, but it was an accident. So we're sitting there, and Craig and Alec Miller and Alan Hodgkin, and they're facing us, and we're in the chairs watching the big screen behind them. And we watched the footage of Brazil, some friendlies that they played, and what their team might be. And the video technician put up the starting 11 behind Craig, unbeknown to him. So I'm sitting there, and he's talking away like this is going to be the biggest game of your lives. The whole world's watching. And I'm sitting there, I go, I'm not starting. You know, behind them for about 5 minutes before he's like, get that off. You know,
do you wish you were playing now? Like, how many caps did? Bear in mind, we're maybe missing a right back. How many caps did you do one now?
I can't run anymore, unfortunately.
If you were a footballer now, you would get in that Scotland team pretty easy, would you know?
The wing back.
I don't.
Come on.
Yes. Everybody else is saying yes.
Stephen O'Donnell, I worked with Sod with Partick Thistle, and I think he's done really well. You know, it's great to see him playing international football now. And
love how diplomatic you're being here.
It would be a very good backup for you.
Yeah. If I was injured, they could maybe fill in. Yeah.
Jackie, you managed Dundee United between 2013 and 2015, and that was a bit of a golden generation for the club with a number of so talented young players that were coming through. Guys are all household names like Andy Robertson, Ryan Gold, Stuart Armstrong, Gary Mackay, Stephen, John Souttar. That must have been class, getting to work with these guys.
It was, because you know when you're coaching, you're training every day, but you see them every day, and wee Goldie was for me, he was a little genius. But I actually loved watching him making the game look simple. Sometimes you're doing me shooting drills or doing there, you're going, I wish I was like that, you know. I wish I could do that. But him and John Souttar, I loved watching them. I loved working with them. You know, what was I doing at 16? I was nowhere near the first team at 16-year-old and 17. But because they were so good, you know, physically they weren't ready, but technically and mentally they were at that point. At certain bits they were tired and jaded, and I came to speak to their parents about, you know, give them a rest, send them away from the sun for a week, which I did, and they got a lot of stick for it. But again, you're looking out for their welfare. And we were playing Ross County, which didn't go down well, the result and performance. And I was like, after the game, you know, a wee bit down in the bus back for Dingwall, and I phoned the two of them for the bus, and hi Gaffer, how you doing? And we're just coming back for the water park. So at that point, you know, you go, they're just young boys, they're not out partying and living it up.
They've got their rubber rings on.
They've got their rings on, and they got their bands on, they go on the big shoot.
Nadir Chifchi, what was he like to manage?
Difficult. He was the toughest to manage. My last match with him was the Dundee Derby, with the biting incident with McAllister. And I came out after the game, and he pulled me. He's like, Gaffer, you know, they're saying I had a bite of his leg, and I didn't. And I'm on the telly and the press after it, and I'm defending him. Then he phones me later on that night, Gaffer, I did bite my leg.
I think anyone who's played with or managed Andy Robertson were legally obliged to ask you, do you think you'd be a Champions League winner when you were working with him?
I say Champions League, but I think you know right away. I mean, we signed him at Queen's Park, and we took him in pre-season. when you're at 19, you're going, well, he's been playing third division, second division, Queen's Park, is he going to handle full-time football to start with? And we played in Germany, and it was a tough match, but him and Nadir stood out. I'm going, he's ready now, you know. And when you do put him into the first team, you think, right, it might be 5 games you get out of him, or 6 games. Like young kids, sometimes you play 5-6 games and they sort of tail off a little bit. You need to bring them in and out and see how they handle it. But with him, it's just...
Yeah.
Did you not bring in Graham Carey on a trial? And it looked like you were going to sign him, and he would be the kind of the experienced player, and Robertson kind of behind him. And then it was just like, we actually don't need you.
Real sliding doors moment. Graham Carey could have been the Champions League winner, and I've never heard Andy Robertson again.
Did you enjoy management at all?
I did. Enjoyed that spell at United. We came in into January and we're in 9th position. When you get to the top 6, which was last kick of the ball against Aberdeen with Craig Brown, you have that finances right away. Whereas if you're in the bottom 6, you've got to wait till the end of the season. So that really saved the club.
That'll teach him for leaving you at the Brazil game at the World Cup.
Yeah, it was his last game. I beat him in his last ever match.
Do you think fans don't necessarily see that side of the game, how important it was for the club to get into the top 6?
100%. They don't see it because it didn't just happen. But that gets a fault, and it all got lost because of my contract getting leaked.
That's probably a good chance to talk about the contract, although that Dundee United lost some very good players. Bad for Dundee United, not bad for Jackie McNamara.
It was, not as good as what it should have been. My only regrets is not leaving, you know, when my contract got leaked, because the people's perception of fans, you still, how many percentage you get when it's there, it should never be in the public domain. Other managers, you know, my salary wasn't the same as other managers at Dundee United, and they'd done it in a way that the bonus there. I don't sell the players. I don't get other teams to buy them. You just train them and play them and have the courage to play young kids and not worry about losing your job.
How do you react when one of your better players, would you say, tells you that they've signed a pre-contract deal with another team? Does that change your relationship with them?
The party is like, as a manager, you want to keep them as long as you can. You get attached to them. You know, you work with them every day, and you don't want to stop them. I was that same young kid at 21 before I moved to Celtic, which was life-changing. And to play in the big games, to play Champions League games, and Stu and Gaz were going away to play against Inter Milan. You know, that's what Gaz already signed a pre-contract, but then suddenly all that kind of turned onto me as if, you know, I've instigated there because of my contract.
You are now an agent and you represent players. What about if you were part of a television show and you felt you deserved a bit more than the rest of the people here, just because you're better looking, you talk a bit better than everyone else? What's your tactic in terms of bumping up their salary?
The one thing I would suggest is don't put any clauses in your contract that might get leaked.
So do you see yourself more as a mentor rather than a kind of traditional agent?
Yeah, because as I said, I think it's the same as a player, as a manager. It's experience that you've had, experience in there, how to deal with certain things, the good and the bad. Obviously, as I said, learning from my mistakes. You know, football's not all great. Especially now, there's a lot of things to deal with mentally. It's difficult now, I think, for the generation to deal with that. You know, every Saturday, everybody has an opinion. But I think the biggest thing to deal with it is, you know, take yourself back from it. They don't know me personally, Jackie McNamara, but obviously my family and everything else. That's the way I kind of look at it now. They're not actually talking about me. They're talking about somebody they think they know. That's
good advice in case any ex-Celtic players are watching this show and decide to slag us off on Twitter. That's quite good advice to not to rise to.
Exactly. Don't take it personally. They've been watching it. That's it.
Jackie, it's been a particularly turbulent 12 months for yourself. Can you tell us about that?
I mean, obviously, fortunate to be here. I had no signs or symptoms about feeling unwell. They went out for a walk with the wife and the dogs, and I got back into the garden and just lost all power. I just knew something went wrong and shouted to my wife and just went head first on the stones. And fortunately there was an ambulance crew in the area. If they weren't there, then obviously I wouldn't be here today. I got to the hospital, I was into York Hospital, then I was transferred to Hull to the neurosurgery. Went in there, I had complications which put me in a coma. Yeah, so that wasn't great, and I came out just over a day later. I managed to come out of that, and it was obviously life-changing, but very lucky, to survive it. It's been quite an eventful 12 months, but quite glad to be here to tell the story.
What's the recovery process been like? Do you feel back to full health?
Yeah, I've got selective memory.
Do you remember your performance against Queen of the South?
No, not quite. But yeah, again, we were talking about earlier, but sort of opinions and everything else with the match, but that wasn't a highlight in my career.
Before we move on, we've got a question from one of our viewers here. What happened to the sitcom that you were writing about football?
Good question. That was, to be honest, I'd done that before I started the Partick Thistle job in management, and we filmed a pilot at Falkirk Stadium. For me, it was brilliant. You know, my pals overacting and everything else, and I had a meeting with the head of comedy in the BBC, and he sat down and he says, just to warn you before we start, I don't normally laugh or smile, or it's like in the wrong job, head of comedy, you know. And you didn't.
No, don't worry, Jack. If they commissioned a view for the Terrace, the BBC will commission any. So go back to them with your
Hope
script.
so.
Now, listen, we've got a special award for you. I would hand it to you, but of course, social distancing measures, of course. But this is a special award for being the best footballer come scriptwriter. This is just especially for you, and I'm going to present it to you in the back of a dumper truck. There you go, Jackie McNamara. There is your Footballer Come Screenwriter Award. Congratulations.
Treasure that.
Up next to all the league winners' medals and the Scotland caps. That'll